Guys, what's up? So today I'm happy to be joined by Kevin Kumpf, someone that I've actually known of for a while, but over the last couple of years, we've had a chance to connect. So, Kevin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And as we kind of explore this conversation, there's some questions I'm going to ask just to kind of get a better feel of who you are and to kind of get an overview or like overarching theme of how Kumite lifestyle resonates in your life. Now, I know you're no stranger to Kumite because you've been in martial arts now for quite some time. So let's start off with that. When did you start martial arts, and what was kind of like? Yeah, so let's start with that. Like, when did you start your martial arts journey?
Well, first, I just want to thank you, Nick, for having me on. I appreciate, being a part of this. And my journey in the martial arts started back on October 6th, 1984. So initially, for whatever reason, when I was 2 years old, I wanted to start karate. I don't know why that was, but my parents mentioned that that was a thing, and they took me to the karate dojo, and my instructor at that time, the instructor at that time turned me away and said I was too young to start. So they come back when you're 6 years old. So we came back. I guess apparently I hounded my parents for 4 years to take karate lessons, and they brought me back on my birthday. So October 6th is my birthday. I started on that day. So it's real easy to remember exactly how much time I've spent training in Isshinryu karate because it's literally on my birthday. So it's been 40 years, um, continuous time.
That's
It's a
awesome.
long time.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said your birthday because that's something else that like now we have in common. So I started my journey after my sixth birthday. So when people ask, I always say, yeah, at my sixth birthday party, my friend at the time he gave me a Power Rangers movie, and it's kind of like the rest is history. So that's so cool. And speaking of martial arts, the thing that we have in common is that there's so many different types of martial arts. So for anyone listening, right, there's karate, there's jujitsu, there's taekwondo, boxing, wrestling, you name it. Now, for us specifically, we do the ancient art of karate. And what's special is that we specifically do a style called Isshinryu, and that originated from Okinawa, as you know. So Isshinryu itself is very special to me, and I know it's also special to you. So to kind of caveat this to the next question, as an Isshinryu practitioner, how has that shaped your life overall? And I know that's kind of a loaded question because I know there's so many great things Isshinryu's done for both of us, but for you, if you kind of had to sum it up, like, man, what has Isshinryu done for me? Or you know what I mean? So like how would you define Isshinryu for you?
It's done a lot of different things for me in my life. One of the main things is it's taught me to delay gratification.
Hmm.
So early on, when you're a beginner, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, your progress, can move along relatively quickly, and then as you progress through the style, it slows. So, like, and at this point in my career, I always joke that I might have to work for a year to get a quarter inch of improvement, in terms of the actual proficiency. And so slow, so you have to work for extended periods of time to evolve.
Yeah.
And I think for me, when I was a kid, that was just a very important thing to learn because that really transcends your life. Because in life, things don't always happen according to your timeline or when you want them to happen. They happen when they happen. And sometimes disappointment comes along with that, frustration comes along with that. And you have to learn to ground yourself and be able to deal with those things and keep moving forward. And karate created all kinds of different challenges for me along the way. One of them was the age thing.
Hmm.
um, Starting really young, as you know, age and rank don't always share a
Match.
nice
Yeah.
relationship. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so a lot of my ranks were delayed, promotions were delayed over time just because of age, and not so much because of ability. And you watch people progress, and you as a kid would sit by and you're working just as hard, but yet you're in the same spot. My instructor was very old school in that way, and he didn't care how proficient I was. He said, there's a maturity component to this, not just ability, and those two things have to coincide. So you're going to be a certain rank for a certain period of time. I was the rank before black belt for 5 straight years. I didn't
Yeah.
progress. So you learn a lot through those things. You learn how to deal with your frustrations, your disappointments, and to transcend those things in a positive way. So that was a really big lesson for me, and also obviously just infusing a sense of self confidence and to develop a relationship with a strong work ethic, which
Yeah.
really helped me later in my life when I went to college, along with that delayed gratification piece, because that doesn't come along quickly either.
Yeah.
So you have to try to balance your life, do those things, and I was well prepared for that because of the experiences with the karate training. Um, so it's been invaluable to me and continues to help me now, even as a father, with a 16-year-old daughter, and she challenges me every day in new ways.
Yeah.
And and you got to meet the challenge head on each time, and show up and try to do the best you can day in and day out.
Yeah.
So Isshinryu karate has been a big part of my life in that way.
Yeah. And it's going to continue to be a big part of your life as we've spoken before. But no, that's awesome that you've had that perspective and that you continue to get that perspective as well. So I kind of want to also ask, so now that you're at this part in your life now, do you ever look back at your journey and wish that maybe you would have done things differently or maybe you would have trained differently? Because I know you've also competed, and that's something that I kind of want to discuss as well, if you don't mind sharing that. And like, how has competing in karate kind of shaped your life aside from just training it? So let's start with that. So there's the actual training, right? Just, coming in, working out, whatever that looks like. And then people can choose to compete because for myself, like growing up, I didn't have to compete. It was something that I chose to. And because I followed your career and because you've been such a good example of just that as a competitor, I kind of wanted to pick your brain. Like, how is that kind of culminated, with your Isshinryu journey and just your martial arts as a whole?
My That's a good question. My competitive career was unusual in the sense that I always say it kind of happened accidentally. So I trained in Isshinryu karate because I liked karate, and my instructor instilled in me early on when I was 6 years old. What I like to say, the right way to train,
Yeah.
and I can honestly say that I never really trained for a tournament. I just trained. And if you train the right way, in my experience, that training is directly applicable to a tournament venue or a self-defense situation. Or if you're just training for personal interest or personal improvement, you get that personal development piece through that relationship with the training regardless. So I think it's more about the way you train, the reason why you train, and if you do it the right way, you'll benefit in all aspects and areas of your life. And so if one of those areas or one of those interests is being a competitor, it translates.
Yeah.
If it's trying to be a good father, it translates. If it's trying to be a good professional in some way, it translates. So those skills are transferable. So for me, I never really thought about being successful as a competitor. And I think with whatever success I had, I think that's one of the reasons why that occurred. It was just because I don't think I was looking for it. I was
Yeah.
just trying to do the best I could. I always joked that I would go to a tournament on a weekend. It was just a break from the training regimen that I was doing throughout the week. I just get to go do a little demonstration, and
Yeah.
that's it. It's actually easier than what I was doing every day. So I
Yeah.
was always excited for that part of it because I could get a little bit of a reprieve. Um, I just think that's a big mistake that people make is they try to just reinvent themselves to be successful in a tournament atmosphere.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just trying to be a good practitioner and you train correctly, the success will come.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like they're training in one capacity, like in their dojo, but maybe they feel, or when I say they, like some competitors feel like they're not enough, where they kind of have to change up how they perform. And we've had conversations like this, and we see this all the time, right? We know what Isshinryu is supposed to look like, or I think we have a good idea of what strong Isshinryu looks like. But you go to these tournaments, and you're thinking like, that's not that's not Isshinryu. Yeah, it's a version of it, but I think I love how you said like you didn't go there to win, meaning like you were there just to compete. And of course, the mindset should be to win, of course. So I have no doubt that you, like knowing you, like you say, all right, I'm gonna go out there, do kata, weapons, spar, whatever it is, and I want to win. But that wasn't your goal, meaning like that wasn't what you were chasing. And I think when we don't chase those trophies and medals and we just enjoy the process, that's why you've been as successful, at least in my opinion, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I was just chasing being the best version of myself that I could be at that time. So
Yes.
the challenge for me was like was always trying to bring all the different elements of karate together and to do it at the highest possible level at that moment in time when you need it to. It's in there's no perfection with that. You never get it perfect.
Yeah.
There's always things that you could do a little bit better or improve upon. I likened it to like golf. There's no mastery of golf, the golf swing. One little modification in the swing and the ball's way off in the woods,
So true.
versus it being down the fair. So you don't ever perfect it.
Yeah.
It's more about the process of practice in which my instructor used to say perfect practice makes perfect. So you try to get as close as you possibly can to being or attaining that perfection with the understanding that that's never really going to come. You're just trying to be the best version of you that you can be.
Yeah.
And that always took a lot of pressure off because then I wasn't comparing myself to what somebody else was doing. It was just like, Kevin, it's just you with you. So
Yeah.
whatever it is that you do, that's what you need to be concerned with and let everything else on the peripheral just kind of fade into the background because you don't get to control that stuff anyway. You don't control the judges, you don't control the competitors.
Yes.
You only control what you do. And if you stay in that mindset, no matter what kind of environment you're in, whether it's a tournament or something else, it makes it much smaller. And the situation or the moment is never too big for you. You
Yeah.
feel like you can exist there and show up and be the best version of you that you can be.
Yeah. And I also feel like it takes the pressure off yourself because it's like you're giving yourself grace. Like, hey, if this doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. I can always go back and improve for sure. And I love that mindset that you shared. So kind of so staying on track of martial arts and karate. So tell us what you do in like your regular, day-to-day activities. And with that, how is martial arts and how are the things that you've learned in Isshinryu helped in your everyday life?
So I do a couple different things. First and foremost, my most important responsibility, and I try to remind myself of this every day, is to be a father and not get distracted by other things. There are certain days where I'm better at that than others. And I have a wife, and she and I own a private practice, a psychotherapy practice here in Pittsburgh. It's a pretty large private practice at this point. My wife started the practice. I kind of came on board later. I was doing a couple different things professionally in the mental health field. I was working as a university professor. I was also doing some other counseling related activities. And now I predominantly work in private practice. So that's what I do for my full time job. And that's, a 40-hour a week job. I usually see quite a few clients a week, and then between that and the administrative side of the business with things, that it's a pretty full week. So then I also do the martial arts teaching a couple days a week in that. And then I supplement that with my actual training, which is karate training, which is sort of individual, separate from the actual teaching.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, so I was doing the university professor teaching for a lot of years at the graduate level. So I taught graduate students at the master's level, and some that went on to look for their doc to achieve their PhD. I did that for probably about 10 to 12 years, and transitioned out. And like I said, I just went predominantly into the private practice world. I did work in the agency world for a while in an executive leadership position. I did that for 5 years and kind of got burned out from it and said, I need to do something else. The
Yeah.
travel was killing me. I was doing a lot of traveling and it wasn't able to be home as much. So I kind of transitioned out of that. And now, I think I'm probably just going to stay in this private practice realm,
Yeah,
from here on in.
for sure. Yeah. No, I love it. And I had no idea because the first time I met you, I thought you had your own school. I thought you were doing this full
Yeah.
time because it just made sense to me because like you're like by far one of the sharpest Isshinryu black belts I know. I'm thinking, yo, Kevin, yeah, he probably owns a school. Duh, So
Like I joke with you, I was like, I just dabble with the karate as a hobby.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it is more than that to me, but you know, it I do run the Isshinryu Karate Academy in Pittsburgh. I'm the chief executive officer for the dojo.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's by no means the only thing that I'm doing. I'm always envious of the guys that can do this full time like yourself and
yeah,
Howard Steele, your instructor.
hmm
Uh, I always thought that would be cool, but my life just never went in that direction.
yeah,
I ended up you know in the mental health field, which I think in some ways closely aligns because it's really about personal development, personal growth for people.
yeah,
And I know that helping a person, through their journey in the martial arts is very similar to that in some way, because it's about bringing that body, mind, and spirit together in alignment.
yeah,
And doing psychotherapy with people is very similar. So even though I don't teach karate full time, um, I feel like I get to have a positive impact on a person's life.
yeah,
And not only their life, but every life that that person comes in contact with. So I feel like I get an opportunity to impact thousands of lives
yeah,
just by working with, a certain number of patients.
yeah. It's like the domino effect, right? It's like you affect
Hmm.
one person, yep, in a positive way. So it's interesting, right? So I had a conversation with a friend recently. So I'm not a parent myself, but and I don't know if I ever will. I mean, I'm not ruling it out, but all that to say this, I don't have kids of my own. So things I know you mentioned they have a family, but I feel like the contribution I give back to, the kids at the dojo, that's kind of like I am a parent in that sense, but I can give them back at the end of the day,
You
I
can give them
mean,
back at the end of the day. Yeah.
so it's nice that like I can totally relate to where you say like you're making that, contribution and just that positivity in the next, generation. And that's
Well,
like I feel that's key.
there's different levels to it. I mean, like even like with being a parent, there's a difference between being a parent and being a fully present parent
Mm,
in every way, being present emotionally, physically, in whatever way your child needs you to be
yeah.
consistent on a consistent basis. I think people in general, and you mentioned the question about, how has the karate helped to inform my life? I think the idea of being fully present and fully embodied in the moment and giving your full self to something is something that karate really instills. And it's something that I talk to my wife a lot about, and she's been very instrumental in helping to keep me grounded in that way and to be consistent. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people that practice the martial arts, and it's an unfortunate thing, how they are in the dojo is not always how they are in their life. Like those two
Mm,
things don't always coincide. I call that being congruent. It's like when you get in your car and you put the right turn signal on, you need to make the right turn, not the left one.
yeah.
So it's the same thing. So how do you show up
Yeah.
and be fully present in the moment, put your full self into whatever you're doing, and be consistent? So what you are inside is consistent with what people see and what people experience of you. That is not an easy thing to do
It's not.
in life.
Yeah. It's what goes back to saying practice what you preach, right? And just yeah. Wow, that that's amazing. Like I'm kind of thinking now, like do I do those things in my life? And I do the absolute best I can to adhere to the things that we teach in the dojo. I mean, thankfully, I mean, I've had such, and I still do have such amazing parents, mentors, senseis, and just even collaborating with other, instructors like yourself. For me, I've always been able to like just look at someone and be like, yeah, like it's like I'm constantly taking the pros from everyone that I come in contact with, while also learning about their cons, if you will. It's like, all right, I like this person because they do X, Y, Z, but I don't necessarily like what they do here. But I can't rule them out because at the end of the day, like we're all humans, so no one's perfect in that sense, for sure. Kevin, who's
So
been? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say it's about progress, not perfection.
I love it.
Every day, showing up and being fully present. I make mistakes with that every day.
Hmm.
Every single day, there's not a day that goes by that there's not a mistake somewhere in there, or
Yeah.
usually in my case, multiple mistakes. So then it's an
Sure.
opportunity for you to learn how to be honest with yourself and acknowledge and own the mistakes, and also take the necessary steps to make whatever changes you need to make so that you don't continue to make the same mistakes.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you say you're going to do something, follow through, and even if you fail at it, you get back up and you move forward and you try to do better the next time, and you keep doing that. And that's one of the things with karate that you learn. It's about resiliency.
Hmm.
It teaches you that resiliency. because you're always going to make mistakes in karate. Nobody does anything perfectly ever, myself included. I make tons of mistakes.
Yeah.
But how do you come back from that and grow from it and get better and keep moving forward? I think is what defines you.
I, I agree, man, for sure. It's like I say, perfect practice makes perfect, not practice makes
That's it.
perfect.
That's
I
it.
think I never had a chance to meet Hanshi Dussel, but I've been in conversations with some of the folks within the IWKA, and IWKA is one of the major Isshinryu associations. And we were talking about Danny recently, and I remember him and I were talking, and he said, "Yeah, Hanshi Dussel, like would always say, perfect practice makes perfect," and just reminded me of what you were saying. So constantly practicing, being perfect, even though we're not going to reach perfection, of course, aiming for it for sure. Um, so Kevin, I wanted to also, and I probably should have started off with this, but it's all good. You recently got inducted into the Isshinryu Hall of Fame. No big deal. I think that's amazing. But explain what that was like. Like where were you at when you got that news? Like what were the emotions, the feelings? Because like did it seem like okay, this isn't real, or it's like wow, like this is like pretty surreal? Because I know you and I kind of talked about it briefly before you gave your induction speech, but now that's kind of settled and it's like yeah, a month has passed. How is like what's it like now being in the Hall of Fame? Well, actually, what was it like before you got there? Like getting that like first notification up to now.
Um, the notification came in between counseling sessions. Actually, I was meeting with patients, and I got a call from one of the Hall of Fame board of directors members, and they gave me the news.
Hmm.
And I knew that I was being nominated because a couple of our instructors at the dojo made it known that they were going to do it. And we went back and forth about it a couple times. And I kept saying, I think it's a little premature. I think we should be waiting. And then eventually they just wore me down and they said, okay, we're doing it. And
Yeah,
so they put the nomination in and, to be honest, I thought that I was little too young. I
yeah,
thought, I had a lot of years, 40 years, but I'm 46 years old. So I always thought that would be something that, a little later in life it would be something you would experience.
yeah,
So the fact that I thought, they were going to do the nomination and they probably wouldn't induct me. And then it would maybe, if I was lucky, some one day down the line, I would get in.
yeah,
So when it happened right out of the gate, I was a little stunned by that. And
yeah,
then, it was great. The weekend was great. Everybody was really awesome, very respectful, and showed me a lot of appreciation. Through the
yeah,
whole weekend. Not just the people from the IHOP, but just everybody that was at the event. It was really nice to see people there who appreciate what you do as
yeah,
a practitioner. So that was great. And now it still feels a little surreal. I still think about it and it's like okay, that actually happened. And I look at some of the pictures from the event, and it's just a tremendous honor. It wasn't something
yeah,
that I was expecting now, and I wasn't sure that necessarily that it was ever going to happen. It was something that I would have liked to have had
yeah,
happen.
yeah,
um, some of my other instructors were inducted before, and wanted to be in there with them, but you don't know how things like that are going to play out. You don't get to make those decisions. So I was just really appreciative of the fact that the board thought highly enough of me to make that determination, and to
yeah,
bring me in, and now being on the board of directors, that was kind of surreal as well. It kind of all happened in the same year,
yeah.
and
Everything happens for a reason.
now it all happens for a reason, and now we're walking that road, and I'm getting an opportunity to develop relationships with the board members. I knew a lot of the board members before, but I didn't have a real substantive relationship with a lot of them. But now that's
Yeah,
starting to change. Like with your instructor Howard,
yeah,
I've had tons of correspondence with him in the past month. We text almost every day now about something related to
hmm,
that board, and so I'm developing just a new friendship
yeah,
just from that alone. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. And I think, the new group of directors that are being brought in have a lot of great ideas. And I think there's an opportunity to really shape not just the Isshinryu Hall of Fame, but Isshinryu in general, I
yes,
think in a really positive way by
yeah,
bringing people more together in a united sense. I think Isshinryu has been way too fractured. They've been too siloed with these different associations for so long. And we need to
yeah,
get away from that.
Yeah, I agree. And just yeah, like yeah, just again, like, congrats on the induction. That's
Thanks.
such a huge honor. Oh yeah, you're welcome. And like when I found out, I'm thinking, yes, like let's put in the youngest Hall of Fame inductee I think known to date, right? Because I think you are the youngest. Because I know when Sensei Steel, my instructor, got in, he was youngest, but now
I
you
am,
are.
yeah.
Yeah, and then all that to happen like in the same calendar year, and now you're a board member, bro. I mean, that's just a testament to like your hard work and your dedication to Isshinryu. So that's awesome, and I'm excited too because now that Sensei Steel's on the board, I kind of get a chance to kind of see it firsthand, like things that he's going through, or I'm experiencing just in conversations and what he can and cannot share, of course. But I'm just excited as a whole too. So next year at the 2026 Issue Hall of Fame, I'm hoping for a big event, because I think that would be great because that's ultimately what Master Shimabuka would want, right? As they say, the his dream lives on. So very cool. So next, I just wanted to ask, can you share a time when, and I know this might kind of seem a little,
I think that's one of the things.
no, go ahead.
I said, I think that's one of the things we're shooting for as a board. We want to try to grow the event. I know right now last year we had about, or this past tour, we had about close to 300 competitors. The goal was to get it up around five, 700 competitors in time. That's what we're shooting for. Shooting karate, where you can have all the associations together in one place, and you can get an event of that size. I think it would just be good all the way around for this style.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like I'm definitely excited for it. Yeah, so just to kind of close this out, Kevin, if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, what would you say?
That's a good question. My younger self. So you're making me feel old. Looking back.
Well, I asked that
What would I tell my younger?
no, so like I asked that because like kind of as a closing questions or close to, so you
Yeah.
made the so you just talked about your induction and how special that was for you and being the youngest person. I wanted to kind of flip the script thing is now because you are the youngest in the Hall of Fame. If you could go back and give your younger self some advice about anything in life, martial arts, Isshinryu karate, work related, family, what would that be?
Don't take anything for granted. Don't take any moment for granted. There's a concept in that gets kicked around a lot in the mental health field. It's the concept of impermanence, meaning that everything is always in a state of change.
Yeah,
So in essence, if a person can remember that every moment in time or everything that you do is you only get to do it one time. So when you approach your life with that mentality, then the most important thing in the world that you can do at any one moment in time is what you're doing at that time. And that kind of aligns with this idea of being fully present. So the most important thing in the world that I'm doing right in the world to me right now is talking to you because that's what I'm doing right now. So it's how do you bring yourself into that fully into the present moment and exist with the understanding that moment will pass. So you want to
yeah,
put your full self into your full essence into that thing. And I just think that, if I would have been able to tell myself that when I was 6 years old, there's a lot of things that I probably would have done differently and a lot of experiences that would have been enriched and would have been that much more fulfilling because I would have had a true sense of the significance of what I was actually doing because of the impermanence associated with it. We all only get a finite amount of time on the planet to do whatever it is that we're going to do.
yeah,
So that can be very transformative for a person in their life, I think, just in general, because even if you're just doing some boring, mundane thing, it can be significant if you remember okay, I'm going to put my full self into this right now. It totally transforms whatever it is.
yeah. So true. I love it. And that's a great concept you made about just being present because I feel like so many of us we think we know what that means, but a lot of us don't, and we live in this fast digital world where I mean, like we're on Zoom right now. It's funny how Zoom came about because I didn't know about Zoom until after COVID because now people like are using it now and it's great that we can use it um like in this positive way, you know? So very cool. Kevin, listen, thank you so much for your time and coming on. I got a chance to learn more about you, and it was cool kind of getting to learn about your martial arts background and how you started, and even up until now, the Hall of Fame, you know, induction, most recent, and things to look forward to for the Hall of Fame board of directors as well. Kevin, before we close out, how can people find you, or like any shout outs or anyone that you want to give recognition to right now?
Um, just shout out to um, obviously William H. Dissel. He's no longer living, but I always like to give him credit. You know, he was my primary instructor in Isshinryu, and a lot of what I've learned about Isshinryu as well as about life come from him. You know, I always like to credit my wife, Christina Kumpf. She's my biggest supporter, and also she's a fiery woman that always keeps me on my toes. I said that to her this morning. Is that there's never a moment that you don't challenge me, and I need that. You know, and it doesn't always feel good at the time, but afterwards, and you reflect on it, you're thankful for people make that kind of an investment in you.
Yeah.
And in terms of finding me, I'm not a big social media guy personally, so I don't have a strong social media presence. But um, you can find information, about me on the internet. If you just type my name in, you can find my private practice information. You can also find me through the Isshinryu Karate Academy of Pittsburgh. There's some information there, some contact information. If someone wants to get in contact with me and have a conversation, about whatever, he'd be happy to do that. And obviously, they can contact me through you. You know how to get in a hold of me as well. So,
Yeah.
number of different ways to reach out.
Awesome. Awesome. Again, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being on Kumite Lifestyle Podcast. Take care, and hopefully we'll have you on again.